Hello, my name is Talia Jones, and here is my blood flow presentation. Go. There we go. This is the blood pathway. I'm going to start with that. So there is the pulmonary circulation, which goes to the lungs, and there's the systemic circulation, which goes to the body. So you have the one that goes to the lungs, and then you have the circulation goes to the body. These are the two circuits that make up the course that blood takes throughout the heart. Also, blood can be deoxygenated or oxygenated and are a part of the blood flow pathway. So here below are the roles in blood. So what their roles are in blood. So we have the deoxygenated blood. So this process starts in the superior and inferior vena cava, which returns the body's deoxygenated blood to the heart. So that's where it begins. It's a long valve-looking tube, which is the inferior vena cava. And then the heart's right atrium receives the blood. So in the next slide, I'll show a diagram with the right atrium. So the right atrium receives the blood, and then the tricuspid valve allows blood to pass through. So it's a little valve between the right atrium and the right ventricle. And there's a little section, and that is the valve which allows blood to go through. Then the next step is the blood is then transported to the lungs for oxygenation by the pulmonary artery after being pumped by the right ventricle. So the pumps through the right ventricle and then it goes through the pulmonary into the left side. And that's where gets oxygenated. So now we're moving on to oxygenated blood. Following oxygenation in the lungs, the pulmonary veins carry the oxygen-rich blood back to the left atrium of the heart. So it pumps through there, goes to the left side now. Then the blood enters the left ventricle, which is so left atrium, then ventricle. The ventricle from the left atrium via the buskin or the mitral valve, which is the same thing like the pulmonary. Sorry, the tricuspid valve. It's the same thing. It is the little valve that's between the left ventricle and the left atrium. Then the oxygenated blood is then distributed throughout the body by the aorta after being pumped by the left ventricle through the aortic valve. So here are the chambers of the heart. So you see, this is where it begins. It goes through the superior vena cava, goes through here, reaches the right atrium. This is then goes through the tricuspid valve, which is right here, then to the right ventricle. Then it goes inside the pulmonary valve, enters the left atrium into the left ventricle, and then to the aortic valve into the aorta. And that is the process. And this is where other blood comes through as well. So here we have the right atrium. The right atrium receives deoxygenated blood from the body via the vena cava. So it receives blood through here, either way. Then we have the right ventricle right here, pumps deoxygenated blood to the lungs via the pulmonary artery. So that comes from right here. This blood pumps into the right ventricle. Then we have the left atrium, receives oxygenated blood from the lungs via the pulmonary veins, which is right here. And then we have the left ventricle, which is right here, pumps oxygenated blood to the body via the aorta. Right here, aorta. So now we're moving on to the valves of the heart. So we have the tricuspid valve, or the right side valve. It's located between the atrium and the right ventricle. Prevents blood from flowing backwards into the right atrium when the right ventricle contracts. So when it contracts, it blocks the blood from going back inside the right atrium. Then we have the pulmonary valve located between the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery, which is, let's see, right here, and prevents blood from flowing back into the right ventricle after it's pumping into the pulmonary artery. Then we have the bicuspid or the mitral valve, which is on the left side, which is right here. It's located between the left atrium and the right, or in the left ventricle, and again, prevents blood from flowing backwards into the left atrium when the left ventricle contracts. And then lastly, we have the aortic valve, which should be right here. Right here is the aortic valve, located between the left ventricle and the aorta. It prevents blood from flowing back into the left ventricle after it's pumped into the aorta. So it's a valve that allows the blood to keep flowing up into the aorta. Then lastly, just the overview of the functioning of the valves and chambers. So the chambers are the atria, right and left side, which again receive blood from the body or lungs and pump it into the ventricles. Then we have the ventricles, right and left. They pump the blood to the lungs on the right and the rest of the body to the left. So right side lungs, left side body. Then we have the valves. They ensure one-way blood flow through the heart and prevent backflow for it to follow of the blood not leaking down but to stay up and flowing, and then keeps the blood flowing efficiently and maintains proper circulation rhythm. And that is all. Thank you for listening. And here's my works cited, and thank you very much.